Hey everyone, I'm Colleen with Awaken Catholic, and this is Awaken the Saint. Have you ever thought about the Protestant Reformation and wondered, where were all the good Catholics at? Well, today's saint was at the heart of it all. In fact, he played a large role in the Reformation of the Catholic Church. Saint Charles Borromeo was born into a powerful Italian family in Milan in the year 1538. Raised in the castle of Verona, his father was the Count of Verona, and his mother belonged to the House of Medici. At the tender age of 12, Charles decided to dedicate his life in service to the church. He earned a doctorate in canon and civil law while still just a teenager. But after the death of his father, he struggled to financially maintain his household and his studies. Things took a turn for the better when his uncle, Cardinal Giovanni Angelo Medici, became Pope Pius IV in 1559. The new pope called his nephew to Rome as an assistant and advisor in the role of cardinal deacon. At this time, he was still just a layman, but at 23 years old, he took over governing the papal state. He used his power in the Vatican to promote education, establishing a literary academy and a college. When his older brother suddenly died, the pressure for Charles to marry and carry on the family name was the push that he needed to finally commit himself to the church. So in 1563, he was ordained a priest and soon after was appointed the Bishop of Milan. He threw himself into the role of leadership by living an exemplary life of service and challenged others to do the same. By the time of Pope Pius IV's death in 1566, Charles had already developed a reputation as a vibrant young reformer in Rome. The Protestant Reformation was well underway by this point, and the threat of Protestant errors was moving ever closer to Italy. Charles saw that driving out corruption, internal reform, and restoring the integrity of the Catholic Church was the best defense against the dangers of Protestantism, and education was his tool. His strategy was to educate the clergy, so he founded schools, seminaries, and colleges. He also ended the selling of indulgences, which was a form of simony, and ordered monasteries to reform themselves. When famine struck Milan in 1576, followed by the plague, most of the wealthy and powerful people fled the city. But Charles chose to stay and care for his people, using his own money to help the starving and minister to the sick. Ultimately, his money ran out, and he had to borrow large sums of money in order to keep up with feeding his average of 70,000 people a day. Although an archbishop, he never allowed himself to live in luxury and chose instead a life of extreme austerity, penance, and poverty. Eventually, due to the burden of his position and his tireless work helping the poor, Charles Borromeo died in 1584 at the young age of 46. He accomplished so much in his short life, from weeding out corruption and reforming the church to literally welcoming strangers and feeding the hungry. He lived the virtuous life that Christ desires for each and every one of us. May we too become like Christ as St. Charles Borromeo did. St. Charles Borromeo, pray for us.